Welcome to MyCounselor.Online. I'm Josh Spurlock, and in this video, we're talking about hormone cycles and how they affect sexual desire. So women are hormonal creatures. You know this, and it's not a bad thing. It's how God made you. It's just the way your body is built. But part of the effect of that truth or that reality is that your hormones have an influence on your sex drive. Sex hormones going to peak for a woman late teens, early 20s, and then start to decline after that. And with life and craziness going on, it's normal that women would only experience an initiating desire for sex, what we call initiating desire, that sense that I'm horny and I want to seek out my spouse to connect with them sexually. For you to experience that a few days a month, kind of mid-cycle, right prior to ovulation and through ovulation, where your body says, hey, I've dropped an egg, go find your husband so we can fertilize this thing and make a baby, right? So the body has, God has built the body to create a little extra hormonal push to connect sexually around that time. But outside of that time, it would be really normal for a woman to not necessarily experience an initiating desire. So what do we do about that? Is husband sexual desire tends to be more consistent than that throughout the course of the month. So in thinking through how do we navigate the realities of our hormones and how they affect that initiating desire, we want to take a look at something that we call a receptive desire. Okay, so receptive desire is maybe best explained in a food context. Okay, so you ever been on a date with your spouse and you're not really hungry for anything specific, but your spouse is, right? And so they have a craving, a hunger for something. Maybe it's Mexican food. You say, hey, let's get Mexican. And we go, I could be open to Mexican. I could do that. Don't necessarily have a craving for it, but I could enjoy that. So we go to the restaurant, we order our favorite dish, maybe it's fajitas, and as we're smelling the sizzling onions and peppers and we're tasting, nibbling on the salsa, that piques our taste buds, that we start to get interested, our mouth starts to water, and we start getting hungry, and we start looking forward to our dish coming, which we devour when it arrives. And we lean back in our chair after enjoying a great meal, and we say, wow, that was really good. This was a great idea. Wasn't necessarily hungry for Mexican earlier in the day, but this was fantastic and really enjoyed this meal. So that's kind of a food picture of receptive desire. If we look at that within a sexual context, what it looks like is being open to our spouse's sexual advances, knowing that our body will begin to arouse and begin to desire to connect sexually once we start touching, once we start interacting, once we start into that sexual interaction. And so that open-mindedness, that openness to connecting, we call receptive desire. And so we maybe want to be close and engage and connect with our spouse, even though we don't necessarily have a craving to connect sexually specifically. So that receptive desire enables us to be open to and enjoy the sexual experience with our spouse, even outside of those times where we are specifically experiencing and initiating desire. And also, it helps to plan for sex. That knowing that that initiating desire may not be there all the time, that we can plan ahead to have on date night or a few times a week, set aside time where we can connect and think about sex in that context, looking forward to that time together. And what that does is by knowing that we've got a sexual experience upcoming, thinking about that, that begins to stir sexual hormones in our body. And we actually, our body begins to prepare for a sexual experience in advance to that. And so it starts to build that desire. And it also allows for some fun, flirtatious back and forth with your spouse in anticipation of that time together. So those are just a few thoughts on how to navigate the hormone cycle and how that affects the sexual relationship. There's some more thoughts within the article. Feel free to dive in at MyCounselor.Online. You'll find this article, Overcoming the Hormone Cycle for Better Sex for Women, as well as other articles and videos around this subject that may be helpful to you in your relationship. I'm Josh Spurlock, and until the next time we connect, be blessed and keep loving life.